Okay, so on this question, are being asked to design 5 ideas. It says you are advised to spend about 15 minutes on this question. Don't spend any longer than 15 minutes. Study the information given in the design brief, which is on page 2, and your design specification, which you have just written. Use this information to help you sketch 5 different ideas. It says 5 in bold because you must do 5. It also says different ideas. You must do 5 different ideas because you will not get marked on repeat ideas. This question also says all of your designs must be in the style of Art Deco. So you must design with the Art Deco theme in mind, thinking about the shapes and the style of Art Deco. And it says marks will be awarded for creativity. So you'll see on the next slide that anything that's just a simple box, you won't get marks for creativity. The more detailed it is and the more interesting things that are on there, that's what you'll get marked for. Right, this is an example of what the examiner would give you marks for. So you can see from the designs that you have just drawn where your designs might lie. So for 1 mark, you would get a simple idea in the style of Art Deco, which is this line down here. For 2 marks, an idea in the style of Art Deco displaying some creativity or with additional design features. So it might have a handle, like on that one there, okay? For the 3rd one, a creative idea in the style of Art Deco. So you can see straight away that this one is a lot more creative than this one. And the shapes and the things that have been added on are a lot more creative, okay? Okay, so this question is now asking you to develop the design. So you are advised to spend about 10 minutes on this question. Choose your best idea from question 2. Use notes and sketches to show how you would develop your design. It's really, really important that you write notes around your drawing. Okay, the notes you will write are explained below, and you must justify your choice of materials and finishes. The word justify means to explain them. So instead of saying I will use pine, it's I will use pine because. Marks will be awarded for details relating to materials and finishes, constructional details, design features and sizes. So the first thing you would do on this question is you would sketch your design that you have developed. So it must not be exactly the same as your idea from question 2. It must be developed in some way. So it may be changed because of the way it looks, the aesthetics. You might change it to make it easy for the client to use, so the ergonomics. You might change it so it works better, so it's got a better function. So think about Access FM. So materials and finishes, you will talk about, label your work to explain the materials that you will use, why you have chosen those materials. Are they waterproof? Are they hard wearing? Are they, do they look better? Do they make the product function better? Any finishes that you might use to make the product last longer. Will it make it more waterproof? Will it make it more weather sturdy? Constructional details. How will the product go together? How will it be physically made? So will it have dovetail joints? Will it have finger joints? Will it have housing joints? Will any acrylic be line bended? Will any steel be welded? Design features and sizes. Any design features such as handles. So when you write down the design features, there need to be things like handles, fastenings, hinges, openings, things like that. And then sizes are exactly what it says. So write down the size that the product is going to be, the width, the depth, the height, maybe the thickness of the material. Think about your practical work that you've been doing. Use your common sense. Don't make something that's only supposed to be handheld, absolutely huge. But we're not actually going to make these products. So really the sizes should be an easy mark. Right, so here's an example of what you might draw for your answer. So we've got a really creative design with some Art Deco shapes up here. And we've got some nice curves on it around here. You can see the materials and finishes are all in pink, so you can look at the notes. So this could be made using MDF. This is a cheap material that is easy to work with. So there you've got an example, an explanation of why you are going to use that material. Think of a material that you know a little bit more about, so you can be confident about writing about that material. So you have all used MDF when you worked in year 7 and 8. You've all used pine when you worked in year 7. You've all had a go at using acrylic. Okay. You can also say that the MDF can be painted very well and it's easy to brush or be sprayed. This person has also mentioned about the Art Deco style, so you would get marks for that. Construction details down here. These are things that obviously how the product's being put together. So these partition walls can be made using a housing joint, tenon saws and a chisel. So they've talked about the tools and equipment that they might use. Said that it might be glued together. The sides of the box will get doweled together using a pillar drill and pieces of dowel. So they've talked about equipment that they would use. This joint's look neat and it's quick to produce, so they've explained why they would use that joint. Design features and sizes. So they've talked about it has separate sections so that various condiments and the menu can be displayed. So it's explaining why they've put different sections in here. And each table will have a different number cut into it with gold acrylics. That's again another design feature. They've also put the sizes on here. Okay, so the size there and the size here and here and here. So you can see really, really clearly how big the product's going to be. Really easy marks to pick up.
So it's quite common for you to get asked a question about how you would make a product. Now, they often give you a drawing of what the product is they wanting to look like. Sometimes they give you an option of what the material is going to be. Sometimes they might just tell you. But in this instance, they are giving you the option to choose how you would explain how to make it using plastic, metal or wood. Now, I would always go for either plastic or wood. Now, you know a lot about wood and you've learnt about different joints, so you might be able to explain quite easily how this one could be made. So using dowel joints to attach the sides and the front on and the back even. You might then just say it could just be a simple butt joint for the front ones here. Because it's only small, it doesn't need to be strong. Those sort of things. But personally, I would always go for plastic. I just find it the most easy. There's not as many steps to explain later on in the next page that I will be talking through. So I'm going to talk through how to make a plastic spice jar holder. So the question will be split up into maybe 4 or 5 sections. Each section is worth between 4 and 2 marks. And it asks you to use notes and sketches to clearly show how you would make a batch of 10 of your chosen spice jar holder. And that was from the page before that I just explained. So at each stage, you must name all the tools and equipment or software you would use. Now, you've got the option here to explain how to do it using traditional tools in the workshop, as in tri-squares for marking out, pencils, steel rule, that kind of thing. Or you can do it using computer-aided design, so CAD. Now, as you can see from my answer, I've decided to use CAD. Again, personally, I find it the easiest to remember. There's not as many tools and steps to remember when you're explaining this. So I have drawn out a net of what the spice jar rack thing would look like. I've explained that I've used red lines for cutting, blue lines for scoring, and the blue lines are also additional help when I am bending the acrylic later on. So I've explained that I will use 2D design. Obviously that is the name of the tool, of the computer program that I'm using. And then I have explained what the blue and red lines are for, and I then have mentioned slightly about bending it later on. So that answer there would receive the full marks because I've used crayons as well to make it really, really clear what I mean by the coloured lines. Now, stage 2 is to do with cutting and shaping or using computer-aided manufacture. So, again, I've chosen to use computer-aided manufacture this time. I have explained that the pieces will need to be drawn and dragged close together on the screen, the nets, so that you get the most out of a sheet of acrylic, so that they're close as possible. I've said that I will use a laser cutter, so that's mentioned in the equipment that will be used. I've said that it must be set to a 3mm acrylic, as that is the material. And I've then explained a little safety feature that the extraction must be on to remove harmful fumes. Okay, so again, that would receive full marks because I've shown the drawings, the nets sort of tessellated together. I've explained what material I use, what piece of equipment I'll use as well. So stage 3, it is about joining or bending. So we're just specifically thinking about bending the material if you're answering it about acrylic. Now I've needed to explain that I would make a mould, a form, a jig. Okay, any of those words would be really, really good to use so that you have something to bend the acrylic around, and that each of them, because you're making 10, each of the 10 will be the same every single time. Now, because it's quite a basic shape, I've explained that you can just make this sort of rectangle block for it to bend around as long as it's the right measurements. And then the lines that you etched on earlier on in blue, they're the lines that you will then bend it along using a line bender, a strip heater, those sort of pieces of equipment to make sure that the acrylic is bent at the right place. I've then given a little benefits of using a mould to do this with. This helps with accuracy and speeds up the process as well. So stage 4 then, this is only worth 2 marks, and it's about applying the finish. Because we've used acrylic and because we have cut it out on the laser cutter, you can just simply say that it does not need any extra filing or sanding. This is due to the fact that the laser cutter produces a really good finish on the edges already. For me, that is something really, really basic. It seems almost too simple, but you will receive 2 marks if you put that. And then stage 5, you've got a couple of options here. You can explain that you could etch on the letters over in stage 1 as long as you drew them on 2D design on the laser cutter. Or I've said that I will draw the letters on 2D design using the red lines for cutting, and then the laser cutter will cut out on some pieces of vinyl, so that's like sticky back plastic, and then they can get stuck on separately.
Okay, so here we're talking a little bit about sustainability and environmental issues. So the word sustainability basically means for a product to be sustainable, it would have to last a long time. It would have to not use too much energy, maybe not use too many materials or materials that are bad for the environment. So by using renewable materials, that is better for the environment. So renewable materials would be things like wood, cotton, things that can regrow. Okay. So for sustainability, you most probably will get a question on sustainability. It might ask you to compare 2 products and how sustainable they are. So you need to talk about how good or bad for the environment they are. So if you look down this side here, it's saying products that can be reused. So one choice the consumer may make is whether to buy products that can only be used once or those that can be used over and over again. So an example of a milk bottle. So you can see that you've got the plastic milk bottle here, which can only be used once, and then you've got the glass milk bottle, which can be used over and over again. So obviously the glass milk bottle would be more sustainable because it can be reused, it can be washed out. The plastic milk bottle can only be used once and then it has to go into landfill. And obviously we know that plastic isn't renewable. Plastic is not a renewable material. It uses oil to be made. So that means that when the oil runs out, no more plastic can be made. So it's not a renewable product. Glass also has to go through a lot of processes to become the material glass, but it can then be reused. So you need to weigh up the the good and the bad points of each. So products with parts that can be replaced, such as a razor. Some products are designed so that if only part of the product can be disposed after use, this avoids having to replace the whole product to improve the sustainability of it. And the designer should look to decrease the number of parts that have been disposed or after a short period of use. So you can buy razors that just get thrown away and they're all joined together. You can buy ones where the head comes off, and again, that can be reused. There is a case study over here, so about the carrier bags and then the reusable bags. So now some supermarkets have started to introduce a charge for carrier bags because there were so many going to landfill, and they take hundreds and hundreds of years to break down. which obviously is not good for the environment. The plastic ends up in the air, and this can also affect the air pollution as well. So have a read through this section. It might give you a little bit more of an idea about what sustainability and environmental issues there are with regards to designing products. And then there's a question on the next page that you can have a go at. Okay, so here's a little bit more information about the 6 R's and a bit more about sustainability and being environmentally friendly with your product. So you would think about the 6 R's. There are reduce, recycle, reuse, repair, refuse and rethink. Any of those that you might apply to a product would get you marks in the exam. So if you can remember those or some of them, that would be helpful when you do the environmental question. You might talk about the carbon footprint, which is how far a product has to travel from between being made or being sourced to being made to then going into a store. Finite resources. Some raw materials can't be replaced, things like oil that is obviously used to make plastic, and certain metals, and they are known as finite resources. Coal, oil, metal, ores as well. To avoid using all of our finite resources, we should always consider recycling materials, reusing products that can be taken apart and used again. So those are termed disassembly. So again, that goes back to one of the 6 R's, to reuse things, and obviously we've got recycling there as well. Obviously when these finite resources run out, we do not have any more. Whereas the renewable resources that we do have, such as wood from trees, these things can be used over and over again because we can just grow more of them. Okay, so from the information that you've just been reading on the last 2 slides, this is a question from one of the older exams. It says you are advised to spend about 10 minutes on this question. The quality of written communication will be assessed in your answer. It does say this sometimes in some of the questions, so you need to make sure that you're writing clearly and that you're writing in full sentences with capital letters. Explain what is meant by the term sustainability. Give examples of products where sustainability has been considered during their design, manufacture or use. And we've just gone through some of these ideas on the last 2 slides, so have a go at this and see how you get on. You're looking to try and get 8 marks for this question, okay? So it'd be 8 things. It could be that you talk about the... You might get a couple of marks for explaining what sustainability is. You need to give some examples of the products and think about the fact that it's asking you for design, manufacture, so the making of the product, or when it's being used. When has sustainability been considered during design, manufacture or use? Okay, so there are 3 different things that you could talk about there.
So the question here is giving you 2 drawings, 2 pictures of 2 different types of juice or milk bottles. Okay, these are orange juice bottles. So one's a glass one and one's a plastic one. Now it's telling you to discuss the sustainability of each of the bottles. So it gives you space to answer about the glass bottle and space to answer about the plastic bottle. Now, because you're discussing, you're not really having to say any advantages and disadvantages or pros and cons. You're not giving your opinion and your reasons why. With it being 4 marks, you could state 4 reasons why they have been used, whether they're good or bad. Or you can write 2 points and explain them further. That is for both the glass and the plastic bottle. So few possible options then for the glass bottle. You could explain that it's made from sand. You can say that it's a non-renewable resource. You can say that obviously a pro is that the glass can be reused, it can be recycled, but it takes energy to obviously produce the glass in the first place. Now, plastic one, few similar things that you could include again. It doesn't matter that it's a repeat. You can say that it's a non-renewable resource, that it's made from oil, and oil's obviously running out. We don't have endless supplies of it. But you can explain that plastic could be recycled. Again, it takes energy to produce the plastic and recycle the plastic, so that's both a negative point, but then obviously positive that we can recycle it. And these plastic bottles could be reused. So these are 8 simple marks that you can pick up very, very easily as long as you understand what the word sustainability means. And in the slides previous, we have explained that, so hopefully you will begin to understand that, and you'll begin to be able to answer these sorts of questions and weigh up the different options of why different materials are used for different products.